Hey, it's John from the Bengston Woodshop, and you might notice that I'm wearing the same clothes as my previous video. I'm trying to knock out as many videos as I can today since all of this stuff will be packed up and shipped off to Germany within the next couple days. So my shop will be shut down for a couple of months while we figure out what that looks like in Germany. But today, in addition to the Michigan State Union that we did, I built this flag today, and we will be putting on this the big Army seal. So I'm going to use some of that Oramask that I've been mentioning in a couple of my videos, and I'm actually going to be using a 1/32 inch Downcut Spiral Bit. It's a very small bit, so hopefully it doesn't break. I do have a couple of bits as backup just in case it does. But the plan is we're going to cut the seal, put it here, and we're going to paint over that Oramask with some black paint so the seal comes out black. And then we'll peel it all off so I can show you what the finished product looks like. This flag is for a buddy of mine. He got promoted to major. So in celebration of that, we're going to be doing an Army flag. And I'm excited to show this to you. And let me know what you think. Alright, so like I said, we're going to use this Oramask. This is Oramask 813. I ordered it off of Tools Today, and it's basically just a real thin plastic laminate that we are going to put down with an old credit card, and we're just going to apply 2 sections of this after we peel the backing off, and then we will be able to cut right through this. And then hopefully all this stays in place. We do have some small little spots like feathers on the bird, on the eagle and stuff that sometimes this peels off, but we can fix it. And then this is great because there's very minimal bleed through if you have any bleeding from the paint at all. So I'm just going to take a piece of this Oramask, stretch it out, get an approximate fit because I know that the seal is going to be cut in this area. Any excess is just what it is excess, but I like to take it over to where the union starts usually, just to play on the safe side a little bit. So I'm going to cut this. And then what I found to be best, if I can get it on the first try here, what you're not seeing is this is actually the second take, because the first take it decided to fold back over on itself and become a big wad of mess that I didn't need in the video. So we lay this down just kind of on the edge of the surface that you're trying to carve and put it down. Now, something that's a little bit different than a standard flat surface is this is made up of a bunch of stripes, a bunch of different pieces of wood, and it's not all super level. So I just like to take and smooth it out, flatten it down as I pull out from underneath. And I try to keep from any air pockets forming underneath the surface of the Oramask. And then you'll see what the credit card is for here in a minute, as soon as I get this all applied. Alright, so we got our Oramask applied, but it's not down super firm. So I just like to take my credit card and run it up and down on the stripes so I can make sure that that plastic is adhered to the stripes as well as possible. Now this is going to save me a ton of time when it comes to painting, because the more this is actually stuck on the wood, the less chance I have of any kind of bleed over or bleed through from the paint getting underneath the mask. There will be some spots though that are a little bit tricky to get, since the boards tend to be a little bit uneven. And the reason the boards are uneven is because I don't plane them or glue them down to make sure that it's perfectly flat. I like to have all of my stripes be individual stripes. That way, if something happens and one gets damaged, I can just easily pop that stripe off and then reapply a new stripe. And I don't have to replace the whole flag. So, just like that, our first layer of Oramask is done. I won't make you watch me do the second one. Alright, so now that we have our Oramask applied, what we need to do is find the center of this portion of the flag, so we can make sure that our seal is centered in this area. Now our seal is 15 inches by 15 inches, so if this thing isn't centered, it can easily carve off the side of the flag in any direction, or even carve into our union, and that's not what we want. So here I have just one of my stripes that I use for other flags. It's got a straight enough surface on it to where I can line up the edges and mark it off just like I did in the last video to find the center. So we're going to take and we're going to draw an X to find center, and then we will use that X as our reference point. Now I kind of have to eyeball where the corner would be here, but it's not going to be so off that it throws anything else off. So we have our center identified right in here, and now let's go set up the machine ready to carve. What you'll notice is I'm actually going to have the flag flipped upside down, and that's only because the way I used to have my machine set up, and I already had the graphic in the system for this one, so I'll meet you over there. Alright, so I have the flag mounted on the CNC. You're going to have to ignore my awesome clamp job, as this is kind of a strange setup, and the clamps that I have aren't high enough to clamp this down. So, not that there's going to be a ton of movement in this, I just don't want it to move around at all, given how small this bit is and how easily it can break. I did one of these flags for an individual, and I went through 3 of these bits, and then I realized maybe I'm feeding this bit through the wood too quickly, or I'm taking too much material away per pass. But again, I don't know if you can see it here, but it's a Manitool 76229, and it's a 1/32 inch bit. And this is how tiny this little tiny bit is that's going to do the carving for this. And the reason I use this bit is because it's an extremely detailed piece, and there's a lot of tiny little parts to the eagle and the outlining areas. So the only way to get the actual detail is to use a small bit like this. Now I could go and use a couple different bits to remove bulks of material, but for some reason Easel doesn't like when I go from an 1/8 inch bit to a 1/32 inch bit for some reason. It's probably user error on my end, so if you have any tips for that, that would be awesome. Alright, so it looks like the Y and X are actually centered, so I'm going to lock that into place. And now the Z, I need to be careful because of how fragile that tip is. And we are only carving down 1/8 of an inch. So we just need to make sure that that looks good, and I believe it does. So now that that's zeroed, I can actually raise this up just a little bit. And I'm not going to show the whole carving, but I'll show some of it because it does take about 4 hours to carve with this little tiny bit. So stay tuned. All right, so we had a little bit of a scare with this design. When I was carving it on the CNC, I had some brushes that stopped working on me on the very last star. So I thought, how am I going to get this solved? Do I go in and route out most of the material and then chisel it, or what? But luckily, I was able to get that router working. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. So if you look here, we have one little spot where the Oramask had peeled up, and I know my shadow is probably in the way because I'm looking at it as I'm explaining it to you. But it looks like we only have the one spot where the Oramask had peeled away at all, so we just need to fix that one spot, clean this up a bit, and then it is ready to paint. So we are going to take this and we are going to spray paint this now. Before we go painting, I'm actually just going to lay an old towel across here so there's no overspray on the actual flag. Alright, so now that we got that painted, the trick is to wait for this to dry a little bit. It doesn't want to be completely dry when you try to remove the Oramask, or it's going to make it incredibly difficult. So wait till it's, I would say, just tacky, where you can kind of touch it, but you're not getting a whole lot of paint residue. The only issue with that is if you drop any of the pieces on the flag, you're going to get black paint. Not a big deal, because if we get a little bit of black paint or a little bit of bleed through with the mask, we can just sand those down and then add some more stain of that color to correct it. Not a big deal, and I will see you guys when we peel this all off. I'm not going to make you watch me peel this whole thing. Alright, so we've started to remove some of the Oramask, and you can see how clean those lines are. But I wanted to show you just, I guess, kind of myself, how easy this is to take up. Sometimes you can just get under there with your fingernail. I happen to use just a little razor blade. It'd probably be easiest to use like some dental picks or something like that if you have any. I might consider getting some in the future. But you just go and you lift away, and you can see how crisp and clean those lines are all the way around. And the whole reason I didn't want to sit here and film this entire thing was because when I start getting into the eagle and some of the detailed pieces, it's going to take a really long time. And that's something that you're not going to want to watch. And that does not hurt my feelings by any means. But I don't know if you can see some of those details, just how well it kept from anything bleeding out. I'll let you get a little closer look. But but there's virtually no bleed over of any type. So I mentioned this Oramask in my Christmas guide video. If you happen to have a woodworker, they might not know of this product, and they might not know that they need this in their shop. So this might make a great last minute gift decision, and I will include a link to this product in the description, so be sure to check that out. Again, I don't get any money back from that. It's just a product that I love and that I use quite regularly when I do my carving. So I will see you after this is all said and done, and I'll show you the final product. So I just finished up my flag, and as you can tell, this is not my garage. All my stuff's been packed and sent to Germany, and actually leave there for there very, very soon. But I did want to close out the build for this flag. I just want to kind of give you guys a look to see what it looked like when it was finished. This is a US Army flag that I did for my buddy. It turned out real well. Sorry for the shoddy camera work. I'm not using my tripod. Like I said, everything's been mailed and I don't even know where to look right now. But anyway, hope you like the build. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I will see you guys in Germany. Take care.